Hi folks, I'm Nate with Two Guys Ride, and today I'm out here in beautiful Chanhassen, Minnesota, and I'm here with Gene from J Connection and Matt from Turnkey Classics. So I want to thank you for spending some time with us today.
You're welcome. Before we get into the car, I'd like to introduce my associate here, Matt Ferris. Matt owns a business by the name of Turnkey Classics. He's been doing service for a number of years on classic cars of all kinds, including European sports cars. For those of you that know who I am, I've been in business for 40 some years, mostly on the sales side, buying, selling, and brokering Jaguars, British cars. In the last few years, we did expand into other cars. And we would go to somebody like Matt to get the cars serviced, get them running, stopping, looking nice, and then we would move on with marketing and selling the car. A lot of times on bat, like we're doing on this car here. And recently, we decided to merge our business with Turnkey Classics. So Matt and I are now working together. And regard to this car here, like a lot of our cars, it was shipped in from out of state. We get a lot of cars coming in from out of state. They see us on bat or see us somewhere or hear about us, and they would ship their cars into us, and we will do what it takes to make them look nice, make them run nice, and sell the cars for these people. This car here came into us from Arkansas, and we can talk a little about the owner, a very nice guy that knows cars, likes cars, and grew up with cars. And in fact, I'll let you, Matt, jump in and tell us about Dwayne, the owner of this car from Arkansas.
Dwayne is a client we've picked up out of Arkansas. He kind of, like the rest of us, kind of started his love of cars at a young age. He started doing models at age 8, I believe, and quickly got a paper route and gained more money to be able to get more models and bigger models, and eventually grew up to, have a real job and be able to afford real cars. But one of the cars that was always on his bucket list was an E-Type Jaguar Series 1. Eventually he found this one, Gene. It had been owned previously by a real estate developer for, I believe, 22 years?
Yes, 20 some years. Yeah, he had it restored. He and his wife both raced Jaguars, so he was heavily involved with Jaguars. And they had it restored, and I believe it's got only about 7,000 miles on since he had restored it.
Nice.
His health started to fail, and then eventually Dwayne bought the car from his estate. So that's how Dwayne had looked for years for a nice E-Type, and he bought this.
All right, so tell us a little bit, Matt, about the history on this particular vehicle.
Yeah, so this particular vehicle is a 67 Series 1 E-Type, which is the last year of the Series 1. Came with a 4.2, 4-speed. This is a Roadster, obviously, the open two-seater. This one came originally in British Racing Green, current state, and cinnamon interior.
All right, so Matt, as far as you know, is it a matching numbers car?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, this is a matching numbers car. I've not seen any indications of anything other than that.
So Matt, when was the last time the car was serviced?
Yeah, so when we brought the car up here from Arkansas, we went and did an inspection and noticed the tires were older, so we replaced the tires with the top of the line stuff we use on all of our cars, the Beretta Stein Sprint Classics.
Okay.
We did the tires, we tightened the wheel bearings, did the carb adjustments, and just got the car running. Brake flush, clutch flush, things of that nature.
Anytime people are bidding on a car, especially a high-end car, it's nice to know what the car was used for. So what did Dwayne use the car for?
Well, obviously he drove it on nice sunny days, as you can see from the condition of this car. It wasn't used as an everyday driver. On top of that, he loved to show it. It drew a lot of attention. He's got other cars, Corvettes, Resto Mods, and many other cars, but this is a car he said was unique, and he enjoyed showing it because it did draw a lot of attention.
So why is he parting ways with it?
Well, Dwayne's decided to part ways with it because he lives in the middle of nowhere. He's in Arkansas. He's like 75 miles, he said, from any civilization. And he can get his American cars, classic cars, worked on. But there was one fellow he relied on to work on the Jaguar, and that fellow, I believe, is retired. So he said he has nobody else willing to work on it, and it's just difficult to get it serviced. So he thought it was maybe time to sell it.
So earlier we took the car for a drive, Gene, and everything seemed to be working, but you've had hands-on the car a lot more than I have in a simple drive. So to the best of your knowledge, is everything working on the car as it should have been from the factory?
Yes, everything is working. As Matt mentioned. When we bring a car in, his shop goes through everything, make sure it's stopping, it's running, it's starting, and everything's working. That's what they've done to this car, so it's running beautifully.
You know, there's a ton of photos and a bunch of videos on this car, but you also have some documentation for the car. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure can. I'll go through some of that documentation. Now, we will have still shots of everything I talk about so you can see closer. But I want to point out, first of all, that the car was shown at a JCNA concourse, and you see in the documentation that it scored 98.44 out of 100 points. So it scored quite high when the car was first restored, and I think you'd agree it hasn't changed very much since then. Like I said, it has very few miles. So these are the JCNA concourse guideline documents. I want to point out we do have a heritage certificate. So again, going back to matching numbers, colors, and so forth, the original colors are on the certificate, and it shows that, again, the matching numbers that you're going to see on the original ID plate and the car are also on the heritage certificate. The other documentation is also very important. Everything was done when this car was restored. As you see in some of the restoration shots, it was a rotisserie restoration. You'll see that in the photos. We're going to have the still photos. But I wanted to point out a couple key suppliers that the previous owner had used. And some of these suppliers, most of you will be familiar with. First one is Donovan Jaguar Service out of Massachusetts. I think if you've been around Jaguars for a while, like I have, you know who these guys are. They're a great shop. They've been around for many years. And they are the ones that did the service on rebuilding the engine. So they did most of the mechanical components on the car, or I should say, really the engine and maybe a few of the mechanical components surrounding the engine. Another shop that, again, some of you may be familiar with is Kane Motor Car Company. David and Sandy Kane and David is a partner of Sandy's. They've been around for 55 years. They did the transmission and they did the rear end and other things as well. In fact, I spoke to David this week and he remembers the car well. And he said the previous owner, whose name was Dick Whitney, and he's passed away since then, but he does remember Dick. And he said Dick had a lot of Jaguars. He raced Jaguars, he loved Jaguars, and this was his pride and joy. And they had the privilege of doing a lot of work for Dick over the years, including work on this car. One other pile of documentation, I say pile because there's a lot of documents here, and we're not going to go through everyone, and we're not going to take photos of everyone. If somebody had a specific question, we definitely will answer that, but most of the components were ordered from British Auto USA. And again, for those of you that have been around for a while, you realize that's also known as S&G Barrett. S&G Barrett and British Auto USA basically are the same company, two different divisions. They merged back in the mid to late 90s. So some of the documents will say British USA, other documents or invoices, when I say documents, will basically have the name S&G Barrett Group, but it's basically the same company. And to be honest with you, it's the company we go to order or procure most of our components when we work on cars, and we've used them for the years. We use some of the others as well, but we found lately, the last number of years, we use these guys. They know what they're doing, they supply quality components, and you can depend on them. So that's the documentation as far as invoices, JCNA, and the Heritage Certificate. One other thing I want to show, you mentioned this, Nathan, we have a lot of photographs. You'll see many of them in the gallery, but we have photographs of the engine when it was all restored by Donovan Motors, looking pretty before it went into the car. We have photographs of the interior components, the seats. We have photographs of the tub. The tub basically showing it was a rotisserie restoration, and the tub is on a truck coming back for the car to be reassembled. Here's a photograph of the rear end, photograph of the transmission, all of these components going back into the subframe, and basically phase by phase, step by step, the car coming back to life Again, a total ground up restoration. A lot of nice photos confirming this. And in the end, they being at that time Dick Whitney, ended up with a beautiful car that he took to a JCNA concourse and scored quite highly.
All right, so Matt, Gene, is there anything else you would like to add?
I think we've covered everything. I don't think there's anything else we haven't addressed in either the photos or in the ad or in all of the documentation. Matt, have I missed anything on your end?
No, I would agree. I think the car's been covered pretty well, and I think the photos speak for themselves. It's beautifully tight.
Great. And we want to remind you, we are quite aggressive, or I shouldn't say aggressive, but we get heavily involved in the bad auctions. We are very responsive. That's the word I should be using. So if you have any questions, post it or send us a posting or a message directly to us. We will try to respond definitely within a day, if not within a few hours. We're very proud of the cars that we sell for other people, especially after we've gone through them, and somebody's going to get a great car. And I also want to thank two guys in a ride. You guys have seen these guys before, Rob and Nathan here. Rob wasn't able to be with us today, but they do all of our videos. They do a great job. And again, repeating myself, but we try to cover everything so you don't have any surprises in the end. Thanks for watching the videos, watching our auction, and most of all, best of luck bidding.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for spending your time. It's always good to learn a little bit more about the car's history, how it's been used, how it was restored. So thank you for sharing that information with us today. And folks, good luck on bidding, and thanks for watching.